Now for more on the situation in Egypt and what may lie ahead for the Muslim Brotherhood and pro-Morsi demonstrators, I'm joined by Joel Beinin. He is a Middle East historian and a professor at Stanford University, as well as the author of Social Movements and Mobilization and Contestation in Middle East and North Africa. Mr. Beinin, thank you very much for joining us here today. We greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
I went back and listened to some of your speeches that you delivered after the elections last year. You seemed so full of hope, and it seemed like Egypt was so full of promise. How do you feel today, and where do you think that country is going?
Everyone was full of hope at that point, and at this point, I think we can say Egypt is in a very, very grave situation. There is no immediate prospect for any kind of real transition to democracy because we have a military junta in power, essentially.
Any frustration, or what degree of frustration on your part, that the U.S. has either neglected to call it a coup or tried to dance around using that word?
I don't have any frustration about that at all, and that's because from my point of view, the United States has no good options. It doesn't have a great deal of credibility in Egypt or elsewhere in the Arab world, and it would be just as well if the United States stayed out.
So what about the $1.3 billion in aid? Should the U.S. stop that aid, or does it even matter at this point?
I think that aid should be stopped. It should have been stopped a long time ago on the grounds that it's totally unnecessary, but I don't think it will make any difference. The Saudi Arabia and other Gulf oil producing states have already put up billions of dollars to make up for any potential loss in aid from the United States and from the European Union. They can't replace the military aid because they don't produce F-16s or Abrams tanks or things like that. But the Egyptian army really doesn't need that equipment because it doesn't have any serious external enemies at this point.
Let's talk about what's going on with the Brotherhood right now. The trials today. Do you think in any part this is really a way for the military-controlled government right now to just quash any kind of political power that the Muslim Brotherhood has?
It certainly seems that that's what they are intending to do, but since there were two trials today, both of Mohammed Badr, the Supreme Guide of the Muslim Brothers, and former President Mubarak, and both were adjourned, Mubarak until September, Mohammed Badr until October, it seems like they are still weighing their alternatives and trying to decide exactly how much of this and how much of that they can do.
Let's talk about that a little more in depth. What are the options right now for the current leaders?
Well, they can go ahead and try to completely smash the Muslim Brothers. That's been done before. The Nasser regime tried to do it in 1965-66 when they executed Said Qutb. The brothers were smashed by the monarchy in 1949. But in both cases, they eventually came back. So I think even if they do try to do that, the chances of long-term success are small. Short-term, yes, they probably could succeed in doing that. Then there's the question of what they do with Mubarak. If they let him off, that will be a slap in the face to the great majority of the Egyptian people, including many of those who are now supporting the military.
I cannot imagine the frustration of the people in Egypt right now who are so tired and so frustrated with the ongoing violence. Do you see any option that could resolve this in any way in the weeks, months ahead?
There doesn't seem to be a good short-term option. What's happened in Egypt is an extreme polarization between two political positions, the army and the Muslim Brothers. Now, there are actually a lot of people in the middle, but they haven't got a political vehicle to express that. There's no large, unified political party that expresses a third point of view. And B, many of them are being intimidated. People who have written in the press that they support neither the brothers nor the military have had their lives threatened. And so I think for the immediate future, things are going to be very grim indeed.
I want to ask you about the Brotherhood, though, because international reports say they are not blameless. They are being accused of targeting Christian churches in the past several weeks. How do you think that is going to play out, and what impact do you think that's going to have, not just on that region, but globally?
the brothers are not blameless. In this situation, neither the Army nor the brothers are blameless. They have both committed heinous acts of violence and violations of human rights and so on. We don't know yet for sure if it was indeed the Muslim Brothers who torched churches, but at a minimum we can say that Mohamed Morsi, when he was president, stood by and allowed that to happen without intervening forcefully. On the other hand, Hosni Mubarak, when he was president, allowed exactly the same thing.
Okay. Joel Beinin, thanks very much for joining us. A great insight. We certainly appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.